Hey folks, welcome back to another TV episode review. Today we'll be continuing Goosebumps Attack of the Mutant. This is the two-part episode from the 90s TV show, and this is part 2, and these both run about 20 minutes long, so they're not too long. This is based on the book, obviously, from the original run, and so this is the second part. I think this part is much better than the first one. The first one is mostly just set up, and it's a little bit slow at times. It's good. It's just not. It's not the most streamlined thing, but the second part has a lot of room to be fun, and so I think that's what makes it so good. This in particular, so first before the episode begins, we get a. For some reason, they put the Goosebumps theme song over both parts, which I think they only needed to do that for the first part. But we get the intro, and then we get a recap of the events that happened in the first part. And what I liked about the first part is that at the end there was a jump scare moment, which if you don't know, I will be spoiling this pretty much the whole thing. I've already spoiled part 1, but Attack of the Mutant is not a scary episode or book. It's more like a throwback to comic books, superheroes, action, all that stuff that I love. So that's why it's my favorite episode and book of the series. But it does have some intense moments, mostly in the episode, but it's just meant to be fun and just goofy, lighthearted. It's not supposed to be scary. And so, yeah, it's just a kind of a breather episode, I guess you could say. So anyway, it gives us like a recap. Skipper found out he's in the comic book world, or I guess the Masked Mutant came out of the comic book and into his world, and so he found his headquarters on the far side of town. He met a girl named Libby, and they became best friends. They go in the headquarters. They find this room with art supplies, and it's kind of like a recap. And so that's kind of where the episode ended. And so now we're in that room where Skipper was in the mutants' headquarters. And I should mention this second part mostly takes place in the mutants' headquarters, which I like because we get to see a lot of it here. In part 1, it was mostly just Skipper's house and some of the school. We didn't get to see the headquarters too much. It was just kind of on and off. But mostly this whole second part takes place in the headquarters, which I like because it's cool. It's very superhero-esque, which is cool. And so, yeah, we kind of get the recap. And so, Skipper and Libby are inside the headquarters. They're in this room with the art supplies, and Skipper finds some drawings and sketches of the Masked Mutants, like comic book covers and some of the characters and stuff, and he finds, surprisingly, that someone has drawn him inside one, he finds drawings of himself on the table. Also, before I continue, I did want to apologize for the struggling of the last episode, some of the story. I kind of forgot some of the parts and I kind of mixed stuff up. Sorry about that. Just wanted to apologize for that. So if you care, I'll try to have this episode not have the jumbled mess that. I'll try not to struggle so much for the story for this one. I did take notes, so yeah. Just wanted to mention that. So anyway, so they're in the headquarters. Skipper finds drawings of himself, and then he gets jump scared from behind. And it turns out that this is not the Masked Mutant. It is a cardboard cutout of the villain, and it's just Libby. She just tricked him and pulled a prank on him, I guess, and just scared him with the cutout. And so she's like, "Let's get out of here. I'm done. Let's move on. Let's go." And so they both go and they both leave, and then Skipper's like, "Wait, I want to show you these drawings. There's some drawings of me on the table." And then when they turn around, the drawings are gone. The folders are gone. The drawings, they're disappeared. They're just gone. And so Libby's like, "Come on, stop playing. Let's go." And so Skipper's like, I swear there were drawings right there." And so they leave, and so they find this weird room, this hallway, and it's kind of dark. And so Libby kind of disappears again, and she comes back. And so they both go home after that. She kind of just gets lost throughout the headquarters. They find each other, and they actually find their way home. After quite a while, the headquarters seems to be almost trolling them especially the elevator. The elevator, there's like this funny bit where it keeps closing and opening, and it's pretty funny. They eventually go home, and so Libby has some schoolwork to do, so she leaves, and then Skipper leaves and goes back home. And later that night at dinner, the family's eating dinner, and so Skipper is not feeling well. He's very ill, I guess you could say. It's not really explained. He's just like feeling very kind of strange. And so, his parents are like, "What's up? Why are you not eating?" And they're eating spaghetti and meatballs, which are fantastic. Definitely one of my favorite meals. At least I think that's what they're eating, pretty sure. And yeah, he's not eating, and he's like, "I'm gonna go to bed." And so he has this weird thing where we see this comic book like vision coming from his eyes, and he apparently has comic book vision now, which is really cool. I think it's a cool idea. And so he's just very, this makes him feel very off, very uneasy. So he goes to bed. um and so the next morning, his parents are cutting onions, and I believe the morning before, or the night before, Skipper had gotten another, or no, yeah, he got another comic. And so it turns out the mutant knows that Skipper is a thing. He knows that he's a big fan of him, and he's trying to lure him to his headquarters. And so the masked mutant is very clever. He basically has this plan to lure Skipper out to his HQ. He actually gets the galloping gazelle and he traps him inside of his lair. And he's like, "Skip, the boy will never defeat me." And he's like, he can only defeat me if he can find my secret headquarters. And so he's kind of taunting Skipper through the issue. And so Skipper tries to tell his parents that the masked mutant is trying to get him to go out to his headquarters in real life. And so, of course, kind of conveniently, the parents are both, well, I guess Skipper's dad is cutting onions and he can't see, so that's convenient. And also, Skipper's dad also hates comic books, so that's double convenience. And so, yeah, he can't see, so he doesn't see the comic. And so his mom is reading this romance novel, and she's too busy into that, and she's too interested in that to care. And so both of his parents are occupied, and so he decides to go down and rescue the galloping gazelle and save the day from the masked mutant. And so he goes out to the headquarters where the building is, and he passes the invisibility curtain. And now the headquarters is extremely active. It's probably the most active it's ever been since this point. So it's like glowing neon pink, purple, green, yellow. It's so active. And so I believe that the masked mutant knows that Skipper is heading in. So he gets inside. Skipper walks in, and he finds the galloping gazelle tied up. And what's cool is that the galloping gazelle in this episode is played by Adam West, who, if you don't know, is a very notable just actor in general. And he's played the '60s Batman. He's been on a lot of stuff. And sorry, that's my YouTube thing, or feed, I should say. And so he's played by Adam West here, who it's funny because he played Batman and he's playing another superhero fighting another villain. So it's kind of a funny joke kind of thing. So Adam West is here. He has a pretty big part. Not a huge role, but he does pretty well for what he's given. And he's tied up in this chair, and Skipper's like, "You're supposed to help me save the world." It sounds cooler when Adam says it, but anyway. He's like, "What took you so long? Where's your powers?" And Skipper's like, "I don't have any powers. I just came to rescue you." And so the gazelle's like, "All right, hurry it up. The masked mutant's coming. We gotta like surprise him, give him a fight, and catch him off guard." And so Skipper unties the gazelle, and he stretches, and he's like, "Let's go. Let's get this." And he's like, he uses his powers to jump onto the rail, and it's kind of funny. Skipper doesn't have any powers, so he's like, "Can we just use the stairs?" And then the gazelle's like, "Fine." And so they both use the stairs. Or no, the gazelle leaps onto another balcony, and so he waits for Skipper to slowly walk up the stairs. And it's kind of funny because it's like he's like, "Take your time. We only gotta save the planet." And it's just like funny. That's exactly what kind of dialogue a superhero would say. So that's cool. And so A couple things that I wanted to mention, or one thing I wanted to mention before we move on, is the bus that Skipper takes throughout both episodes for some reason, it has the Goosebumps logo, and it's kind of funny. I think I might have mentioned this in the first part, but the bus has the Goosebumps logo, and I love it because they're just poking fun at themselves, and it's cool. It's obviously like an advertisement, but it's also kind of cool. I just wanted to mention that. You may have noticed it. I just wanted to point it out. Anyway, yeah, the gazelle's in trouble, and then he gets a sorry, I wrote the bullet point kind of far. Anyway, we all know he was in trouble, so Skipper frees him. Anyway, just said that. And so basically, the masked mutant is kind of hiding. We don't really know where he's at. The Gazelle and Skipper both are trying to look for him and trying to look for a way out of this place. And so they come to this big control room, basically. And so the Gazelle's like, I'm just gonna sit here. Let's wait for the mutant to arrive. You know, we can catch him by surprise. You know, he won't know that we're here. So Skipper's trying to like, you know, he's like, the masked mutant could be anywhere. He could be there, there, there. And so the Gazelle sits in this chair, which is very sus. The chair is not very, it's not very subtle. And so the Gazelle sits in the chair, and suddenly the masked mutant shows up, and he's in the chair, like he's shape shifted into the chair. So he's like traps the Gazelle with snakes on the arm rests, and the Gazelle gets up and he does the spin move, and he tries to destroy the mutant, and the mutant just laughs. And then the Gazelle gets so dizzy, he gets so out of sorts, I guess you could say. And so the Gazelle's like, "That's it. I'm too old for the superhero stuff." And then he just takes off. He leaves Skipper to at the mercy of this supervillain who has killed multiple heroes and is about to kill them. And so I think this is probably one of the more cowardly moves of the Galloping Gazelle. Um, he's just kind of like this coward, and he's not old, but he thinks he is too old, so he actually just leaves, and the mutant lets him leave, and which I think is weird because the Galloping Gazelle is the arch enemy of the masked mutant. So wouldn't it make more sense if the mutant killed the Gazelle first and then killed Skipper? I don't know. I think that would have been smarter. But anyway, the Gazelle is out of the episode, unfortunately. He's a cool character, and I like him, even though he's cowardly. He's kind of a jerk. I kind of like him, especially because it's Adam West. He brings a fun, campy, goofy, silly vibe, and it's great. But unfortunately, we don't see him again after this. But I loved seeing him. He was great. So he's gone, and so Skipper is now alone, and the mutant, when Skipper looks back from the Gazelle leaving, then the mutant's gone. He's just gone. He just disappeared. And so he's like, where are you, mutant? Where are you? And because the mutant can shapeshift, he doesn't know where he is. He could be anything, like a floor, you know, a wall, a piece of equipment, anything, like a light. So the mutant, eventually, there's a big reveal here. And so Libby somehow gets involved into this. She kind of walks in from where the Gazelle left, so the door. And so suddenly Libby is here, and she's played once again by Melissa Bathory, and she's great. Once again, I think she does a better job here. I think the acting is much stronger from her here, and she's not as silly sounding, I guess. And I like her acting. It's actually better in this part, I think. So she shows up. She's like, "Skipper, what are you doing? Where's the masked mutant?" And then Skipper's wondering the same thing. He's like, he could be anywhere. And then Skipper looks around, and Libby's gone. And then it's very strange. And then the mutant shows up, and then he disappears. And then Libby shows back up, and then Libby is kind of very creepy. She says, "The masked mutant could be anywhere, even me." And then this is the big reveal. You know this if you've seen the book, but Libby, this whole time, has actually been the masked mutant in disguise, of course. And so it's a big reveal. Skipper's, dumbfounded. He's like, "Libby, Libby," and she's like, "There was no Libby." And it's like very creepy and cool. And the masked mutant shows up, and the mutant is about to kill him with this kind of weird yellow hook thing. I don't really know what it is. It looks like an anchor or kind of a hook. So he's about to kill Skipper, but then Skipper's like, I'm not. He's like, hold on, I'm trying to phrase this right. So Skipper is like, you can't kill me. I'm the colossal elastic boy. And then the mass mutant's like, elastic boy, I should have known. And then, of course, this is a lie. Is Skipper made him up completely, and so the mutant tries to kill him, but the mutant is kind of stupid because he thinks that by killing Elastic Boy, then he can rule the world. So he asks Skipper what is the weakness of the colossal Elastic Boy, and so this is kind of the big showdown. And so he asks him what his weakness is, and then Skipper says, "Well, it's sulfuric acid. Only that can melt my molecules." And so this mutant is really stupid in this moment, where he turns into sulfuric acid, but then Skipper laughs at him. He's like, "You're such a fool. You know, you can't change back from a liquid into a solid." And so the mass mutant, he can change into liquid, or I'm sorry, he can change into solids and back, but not into liquid and back. So he changes into sulfuric acid, which actually kills the mutant. And so that's kind of the end. That's how it ends. So Skipper, make sure he's dead. It's actually kind of violent. We don't see him dying, but we see a little bit of it. We hear him like screaming in pain, which is kind of disturbing. But anyway, I love Scott Wickware as the mass mutant, like his performance. I think it's probably one of the best parts about this part in particular. If you're gonna only watch one part of this, watch the second part. Adam West is awesome. Melissa is great as Libby, and then Dan is great as Skipper. But the mutant is the best part. He's just so evil, and yet he's so like silly. Like it's just so ridiculous. Which is fine and it works because this is a comic book, so it makes sense. It's really stupid. um, I really like Scott Wickware. Most of his lines, honestly, are just him cackling, like it's just kind of dumb, but it works because he's a supervillain. That's what they would do. That's what any supervillain really does: is laugh maniacally and plot to rule the world. Also, I did appreciate the when let's see, there was a couple of mentions of the League of Good Guys, which is this universe's Avengers basically, or the Justice League, if you will. So this basically super team, we get a couple mentions of them, which I appreciate, because it kind of builds like the lore, like it gives more story, which I like. And so yeah, Mutant gets defeated. I did want to mention the ending, which is a little bit different from the book. In the book, Skipper cuts his finger and he bleeds comic book ink. Well, in the episode, it's a little bit different. His mom gives him a new comic book, and Skipper's a little bit down because the mutant is dead, so there's no more comic series, there's no more, adventure, and yeah. And so Skipper sees this new issue, but before he can read it, he's in the other room and he's not hungry because the mom is making dinner. And so he goes into the other room and his mom is trying to wash off comic book ink that's on his finger, or on his hands. I think that's kind of a reference to the book ending, which I think is cool. And so he goes into the other room and she hears a stretching sound, and it's him. His arm is stretching from the other room. And so the big twist of this is I think it's cool. You might not like it. It depends on if you want a dark ending. It's not dark, it's funny. And so Skipper is now a superhero. So he's now the colossal elastic boy that he was mentioning in his fight with the mutant. So somehow he's become a comic book character. And so he is now the Elastic Boy. And so he has to find a new villain to fight. And there's kind of this funny moment where he laughs evilly. He might be a villain. We don't really know. It's kind of ambiguous. And so that's how the episode ends. And he ends it by saying, stretching, which is kind of dumb, but it really works. But yeah, that's the ending. I think it's great. I part of me wishes it was dark, but I mean, it's not really a scary episode, so that probably wouldn't work. So I like the silly ending. I do wish we got to see a little bit more of Adam West. I mean, I know he was a big part of, the second one, and he was also a voiceover whenever he was in it in the first part, like a couple parts in the beginning. But I would have liked to see a little bit more of him. I love the Mutant Slayer. We could see a lot more of it here, which I definitely appreciate. It's very 90s. It's very kind of cheap looking, but it's also very cool, I think. And it has this cool feeling. I like the final battle. Obviously, because it's a kid show, they can't really have them physically fight. So I kind of like that, Skipper pretends to be a superhero and he tricks the mutant into, turning into acid, which I think is cool. Although it means that the mutant is dead, which is a little bit of a shame. Um, but yeah, I love this. I like the twist that Libby was just the masked mutant all along. I really like that. In fact, when I first saw this episode, I didn't know that, and so it was a big reveal, and I really liked it because I was shocked. And also in the book too, it's a big thing in the book too. Um, yeah, Skipper fought the mutant. He won. I think the mutant was very creepy, and I think Skipper was a great character. It's kind of cool that he was like he thought he was lost or he thought he was losing his mind, but it turns out he was actually bringing the comic book world into reality by loving the Masked Mutant series. Um, and yeah, he's now a superhero, which is cool, and he may join the League of Good Guys. Who knows? So I thought that was cool. And I love this episode. I have nothing really bad to say. There's nothing that I don't like. Um, I'll give Attack of the Mutants, the two-parter, a 10. There's nothing that I don't like. I watched it probably 10 times. I love it. It's my favorite Goosebumps book and episode. Um, I will do more. I think I'll do at least probably my top 10 favorite Goosebumps episodes. I don't own a lot of the books yet, so when I do get more, I'll definitely do like a haul and review some of those at some point. But yeah, I think I touched on everything. I love this show. Most of the episodes are scary. Most of them. Most of them are just goofy cheese, but that's how it was in the 90s, so it makes sense. But have you seen Attack of the Mutant Part 1 and 2? Do you like the episodes better than the book? Do you like the book better? What did you think of Adam West's cameo? What did you think of the mutant? I actually will be doing a video analysis, like a character video on the Masked Mutant. I think he's cool enough to get one. I think he's probably my favorite Goosebumps villain. I think so. There's a lot of great villains, but he's my favorite. So yeah, that'll be coming pretty soon. And also, I'll probably do at least one more episode review. I think I might review the show just for this month and just in general. It may be a short review, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it wasn't too long for you. And check this episode out if you like comic books and silly, fun, just action and 90s cheese. You'll like this. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I will see you for the next one. And have an awesome day. Take care.